On the topic of intimacy, there was a tremendous talk that the Rebbe Rashab delivered in the year Tafrei Shayin Gimel, Mitzvah Shabbos Chof Aleph Kislev. Yutas Kislev that year was Thursday, so Shabbos was Chof Aleph Kislev, 21st of Kislev, and at night there was a Farbrengen. And this is published and printed in Sefer HaSichos Torah Shalom, page 172. And due to the importance, critical importance of this topic, so though the Sikh is spoken and published here in somewhat cryptic and somewhat concealed terms, as the Rebbe says in a letter, which we shall soon address, that that it seems that this Hanach is Dvarim Stumim, that means like closed and somewhat innuendos and written in a cryptic fashion. Nevertheless, due to the importance of the issue, where he so directly addresses the issue of the unspoken impulse, I think it's appropriate to learn inside. So we'll learn it inside with the text. In the opening of it, I should mention, even though it may not be related to the actual thing, since it's published beforehand, I think it has a connection. So as I said, this was a Farbrengen the night Mitzvah Shabbos. Shabbos was over. After Shabbos, there was a Farbrengen. In the same Torah Shalom earlier, there was a Farbrengen that was a Yutas Kislev on Thursday, actually Thursday, Thursday says Yom Hey Yutches Kislev. And then there's a Farbrengen Leil Yutas Kislev, Shabbos Kedesh Leil Yutas Kislev. Shabbos was the night of Yutas Kislev. And then was Mitzvah Shabbos Chof Aleph Kislev. Okay. So he begins like this. Rab Nachum Shub min Nikolayev. Nachum was a sheikhet, basar, meaning a meat slaughterer, a sheikhet from Nikolayev. Nikolayev, by the way, was the city where the Rebbe was born. Amad Rachik Mekvei Gushas Ad Mushlit. It was standing as a distance from the Rebbe. The Rebbe here meaning Shlita is the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe. For Amad Rab Nachum, and Rab Nachman said the following: Sheyitn Hashem Yisbarach, that God should give him, that he should get close to the Rebbe. So he was standing at a distance, so he's saying, God should help that I should get close to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe answered, the Rebbe responded as follows: Ha'ikr, the primary thing is the kiruv hanefesh v'lei kiruv haguf. The primary thing is that you should be close in spirit, not the closeness in body, the physical closeness. As the nefesh is mekarev esaguf, when the nefesh, when the spirit brings this body closer, is das hecher be'en areich, it's infinitely higher, with their guf is mekarev esanefesh. It's infinitely higher when the body brings the spirit closer. So an interesting thing, all he was talking about was just coming closer to the Rebbe. He was standing at a distance and he wanted to get closer. He obviously also meant not just physically closer, but spiritually. So the Rebbe Taka says, the main thing is this nefesh should get closer. In other words, you can be 1,000,000 miles away from a Rebbe or 1,000 miles, but if you're close in Ruchnius, you're right there. And when your soul brings your body close, it's far better and far higher, infinitely higher than when your body brings your soul closer. In other words, if you're physically close to the Rebbe and then the soul comes, it's not close to the opposite way. Whether this is connected to what we're going to read now, everyone can speculate. Everything usually is connected, because now what happens next is the basis of what I really wanted to learn here. So then he comes the next sif, the next section. It tells us, this is before the sikha, it's important to know what happened that the Rebbe Rashab responded to in this following talk. So acher kachoy menagdim es hanignim pod v'shalom nafshi is Yutas Kislev, as it's customary Yutas Kislev, we sing the famous pod v'shalom nafshi. So they sang the song. V'amar al pasuk shilach yodav b'shleima v'chilel brisei. So after they finish the song, so we know the song is from Kapitel Nun Hey in Tehillim. At the end, part of the nigun has the word Shilach Yodav B'Shleimov, that they extended their hand. Shilach Yodav means they actually violated B'Shleimov. What? Sholach Yodav. Sholach Yodav B'Shleimov means that they violated, they hit, they struck B'Shleimov in his whole ones. Shleimov is an expression when you say someone who's like a complete one. When you say, for example, someone is a shalom, talking about people who are complete, and he violated them. Shalach Yadav, he violated them with his hands. Chilel brise, he desecrated his bris. A bris literally usually means the sexual organ, the bris. So this is now what the Rebbe Rashab said after they finished the Nigun singing the Nigun, and the Rebbe Rashab began speaking. And he talked about this expression in the psukim in Tehillim and Padav Shalom, particularly this expression. So what does he say? Pagam habris da langtin shlemus. As I said, I believe this is a revolutionary talk, unprecedented, and if dissected properly, we can derive from it tremendous lessons and directives in dealing with this big issue of sexuality, both preventive and dealing with after the fact. God forbid somebody violated in an inappropriate way, like he says, Echila Brise. So here's what he says. Pagam habris da langtin shlemus. Pagam habris means the desecration of. The pagam means the blemish, the wound of the bris. Pagam habris literally means the violation of the bris. So he's talking about doing something inappropriate with one's sexuality. The length in shlemus. That reaches in shlemus. It reaches in the complete being, in the completeness of a person. Like he said, shalach yodav b'shleimov. So shleimov can mean in like the innocent people, in the pure people, in the complete people. But it could also mean in the completeness of a person. It affects and attacks, violates not just an aspect of a person, but the shleimus. We'll explain that in a moment. So therefore the tikkun habgam, when something habgam means sometimes a scar can be a habgam can mean a schism, a wound, and here obviously means a violation, not a physical violation, but a violation. So the tikkun, the repair of it, is nit mitakei chelyan. It's not with a higher power, nor midem gufa, but with this itself. Since it affected shleimus, it affected the full being, the essence of the person, you can say, the core of the person. So therefore, the tikkun has to also be one that affects that, mit shleimus, midem gufa mit shleimus. You have to, in other words, you repair a wound, a violation of shleimus has to be repaired with shleimus. Let's talk a moment about shleimus, and then we'll continue on this section here. And a very fascinating letter of the Rebbe on this section. Here's what he says. What does shleimus mean? So when you look at a human being, we have many, many faculties. For example, if somebody, God forbid, gets cut in their finger, small cut, so it bleeds, put a Band-Aid on, or it just heals on its own, it clots, fine. If it's a deeper scar or wound, it may take longer to heal. If it's even worse, you may need stitches. You may need antibiotics. There may be an infection. You may need, God forbid, even surgery. It all depends on the level of the impact and how deep it's impacted and whether it's spreading, etc. So there are many things that are called superficial wounds. They affect a part of us. So you bring in a healing agent from outside and you heal the problem. Let's say certain has a deficiency. The blood is not clotting. Or as I said, there's an infection. So you could hope that the infection just goes away. What's maybe better is to fight the infection. You maybe put a certain medication on it, or you take an antibiotic. So you take another force, a koyach elyon, another power, that's to help heal this element. But what happens if, God forbid, there's an attack on something that's not just a superficial or outer extremity of a person? It attacks the core organs, let's say, the heart, the brain. Again, God forbid. There, it's not so simple. Medication may not help. You may need to go inside there and you have to rewire things. You may need surgery, intrusive surgery. Just an example. These are all physical, so-called wounds. What happens if you're wounded, not a physical part of you, but a psychological part of yourself? Let's take an example. Somebody is betrayed. A child who believed in a parent or believed in a loved one, a teacher, and then there's a betrayal. It's not that simple. What do? You can't just say, you know what, I'm sorry, it was a mistake, everybody else. A person can lose trust. You lose trust. You can, at a fundamental core level, you can be very disturbed and you may not trust another person so quickly. This happens to many people. If a wound is deep enough, like the first, they say the first wound that's deep enough can affect you for the rest of your life, unless you work on it. Now let's talk about how deep can a wound go. That's a psychological trust. Pagam Habrisi says, doesn't just affect a part of us, doesn't just affect a deeper part, affects shleimus. It's affecting the core human being. The seed that comes from the bris, that God blessed us with the power to give birth to another child, is not just another emission from the body. It's not even like blood. Dam is a nefesh. Dam hu a nefesh, it says. Blood. This is more than nefesh. Blood, infusing blood from a male to a woman, does not cause a child to be born. Seed has the power of life. The core power of life. He doesn't say this here, but it's shleimus. All of the male genes are infused in this organ, and when it emits what it emits, it's carrying the seed of life. And when those chromosomes and those cells mix together with an egg and fertilize an egg, a life will be born. We're not talking here about a small matter. You're talking about, and someone will say, in this tipa, in this small tipa, in this drop, lies what? Lies the entire personality of the Father. And the personality of the Father that He had. All carried in this. This is God's blessing. He allowed us to be able to replicate life and create life through this seed. So it's not talking about a small little matter here. You're talking about the whole shleimus of the person is invested in this seed. That's what's going on here. And as a result, what happens next is that you were pagim b'shleimus. So when it's done in a sacred way, a husband and a wife, and married in the sacred Torah-dika way, Kadas Meishav Yisrael, so then there's a time when they unite, become one flesh, according to the Torah, man and woman, and their sexual attraction for each other is based on the union of male and female reconnecting to the Tzelem Elokim, the divine image in which they were created and then separated. They come together, one flesh. God says, here's the blessing I give you. Pruruvu. Then when you come together and done the right way, a child will be conceived. The seed will mix with the egg, and I will add the soul into it, the three partners, Father, Mother, God. What happens when you take this same power of life and you violate it? A wound. There's a wound, but it's not a wound no longer in one part of the person. It's touched the core engine room. Think of someone not just severing a wire. They went into the engine room itself where the source of life, where it comes, like he says in Tanya, tipas hamayach, it comes from the mind. And it's transmitted the way it's transmitted. And the Gemara says, ein kishe el ladas, a person cannot emit the seed without having das, concentration. You have to concentrate, you have to put your mind to it, and your mind therefore turns something, and there has to be an arousal. And without getting explicit, because he doesn't get explicit, so neither will I, but what it's carrying is creating your whole energy. Which is also why it gives so much pleasure. Because it's not just a pleasure you took a little piece, you took a little sugary candy into your mouth. All of you is in there, and for some reason it's connected to a deep pleasure when it's released. So in Kedusha, is the energy and pleasure of creation. The pleasure of coming together with your soulmate and joining and becoming godly. When it's violated, it's affecting shleimus. So we're not talking about a small thing, it's affecting shleimus. Now this is all in one word, shleimus, without, Rabbi Rashab doesn't say anything I've just said, I'm trying to explain it. So now the question is the tikkun. You're not talking about, you can't just put a band-aid on. You can't just say, hey, what do? How do you resaken something that violated shleimus? Something, your whole being. Imagine, God forbid, a person, gets, part of their finger is burned. Okay, you nip it in the body. What happens if the whole body was in a fire? Oh, we know that's not so simple. The whole skin may have been burned and singed. You're not talking about here the same type of problem. Here, if the whole shleimus of the person has been violated, you need to have a tikkun that comes from shleimus. And that's the theme that he's going to address here. What is the tikkun? What else, in a powerful way, can repair a wound that touches such the core of a person? So here, before we continue on, someone asked the Rebbe, a question, what does he mean here, that it's not from a kayachelin, but with shleimus? And I want to read what the Rebbe answered, talking about this Torah Shalom. The question that was asked is, in the question you ask in Torah Shalom, where he says, Tikkun al-yedei shleimus, this is the Rebbe's words. You ask me, what does he mean by the word that the repair is through shleimus? So the Rebbe writes like this, Bo sham hadvorim stumim. The idea is the Hanocha, this Hanocha, which was written not by the Rebbe Rashab, was written by those that the listeners. So it says the dvarim, the words that were conveyed, or the words that were documented, that were committed to paper, come concealed. Dvarim stumim means like concealed ideas. It means it was written in a cryptic way. Ukanira ha'anocha chseida. The Rebbe adds in parentheses, and it seems that the Hanocha means literally the transcript of the ideas, is missing. That means that some lines are missing or ideas are missing, probably deliberately. So it's written intentionally in a very hidden way. Nevertheless, they printed it in Torah Shalom, which is why I feel the Chrai's responsibility that we can read it and learn it. Ukanira, and the Rebbe continues, hakavona. And it appears that what is the intention of the Rebbe Rashab? In other words, the Rebbe is coming to fill in that which appears to be missing, or at least part of it. What's the intention? That he's talking about, what's the tikkun? Limud pnimius haTeira. It's interesting, the Rebbe writes in the parentheses pnimius. So really, limud haTeira, pnimius haTeira. Because in the rest of the continuing Sikha, which as we're going to learn, he talks about pnimius haTeira, the inner dimension of Teira. Specifically, not chitzenius haTeira. Yet in this letter, the Rebbe is hinting that really Teira in general is a tikkun, because remember, Teira ultimately comes from God. So it's also a shleimus. But pnimius haTeira obviously is where it's far more powerful and far more apparent. So the kanira, the kavan in Torah Shalom is talking about pnimius haTeira. That's the tikkun. But eifin hachi shalom. So what does it mean, shleimus then? What means the tikkun of the wound, of the violation of shleimus is with wholesomeness, with your whole being. What does it mean? So it means learning pnimius haTeira be'eifin hachi shalom in the most complete way. Shalom, complete. Shebelimud, in the most complete way that one can learn. And the Rebbe spells it out. Two things makes it most complete. She is gala kol keach hasechel shlei bilimude, that his entire mind, the entire power of his intellect, should be revealed in his learning. Because you can learn superficially. You read something, and half your mind is elsewhere, is asleep, is not concentrating. So he's talking about here total concentration. Your own mind should be learning it with full concentration. And we all know the difference. You could sit by the same sefer and learn it quickly, and as I said, think about something else or not and completely invest. Here, shalom means you have to put yourself completely into it. The chein, and the second thing, the chein and also, the idea being learned should completely consume your entire mind. So you could say, what's the difference between the two? Apparently the difference is, the first one is that don't think about other things and don't invest all your mind in it. And what you learn should consume your entire mind. So not just you put your own mind in concentrating, but you let the idea take over your mind. Because you could have your whole mind invested, but there's your mind and there's the idea. Let yourself swim in the idea, basically. Let it be submerge yourself into it, that it completely should consume you. Why are these two things important? Because we're talking about shleimus. Think of the violation of the sexuality. What happened there? It wasn't some superficial thing. It requires concentration. Because we're talking not a mistaken emission during a night or something like that. He's talking clearly here that something that you're repairing. So it required concentration. En kishay el ladas. It required das mechin. Like he says in the Geras HaTshuva, that the tikkun of this pagam, Shazal, or calls it Chatnis in the Urim, is through Limud HaTeira, because Teira is Mechachma Nafkes, is to Teira. Geras HaTshuva, chapter 9. So you put your mind in it. And you didn't just put your mind casually, you focused on it. And it consumed your whole mind. So both these things happened in the Begam. So you have to have both things in the repair. You can't just superficially learn, you have to completely invest all of yourself. And you have to let the idea completely consume you, like in the negative, what happened. That caused the pagam in the first place, the violation, the blemish, the wound. These are the two things. That's what the Rebbe says in the letter. And then he writes, Va'ayin shulchan aruch even ha'ezer. Ayin, look. Ayin doesn't just mean look. Ayin means to immerse yourself. In shulchan aruch even ha'ezer, Seif Simon Chav Gimel. The end of Simon Chav Gimel, there he talks about the people. how they prevented themselves from sin in these areas. So he talks about different types of people, how they focused on different things. One who never saw, he says, the tzuris isha, the shape of a woman, never allowed himself to fantasize on it. And then he goes on that the way they dealt with it is they immersed themselves, l'divrei ha'emes, the Rebbe quotes, in the words of emes. And he emphasizes emes, which partially means not just words of truth, teres ha'emes. Why do I say l'divrei ha'emes? All Torah is emes. But l'divrei ha'emes means more than just recognizing the truth of the Torah, which can be chachmas ha'emes, primus ha'Torah. Also can mean that you're really entering into seeing Torah as the ultimate truth, not just as a let's say halacha alone, or just as a directive. L'divrei ha'emes, shem echzes levav ha'kdeshim. And they echzes, the Rebbe emphasized the word echzes. They grasp, they consume, they completely, echzes, when you say echzes, shnayim echzes betalis, two people grabbing a talis, they hold on to it for their dear life. So echzes doesn't mean, so they grasp the hearts of the holy ones. So when you say echzes alev, when you see someone got your attention, you don't say echzes. You say, I got your attention. You say, I grabbed your heart. What do we mean? That you're mesmerized by it. Someone grabbed your heart. Your whole heart was taken. So the Rebbe is saying that's the idea here. By learning primus ha'Torah in a way that your whole mind is invested in it, and it grabs you, it completely consumes you, that is the tikkun of shleimus that repairs the violation of shleimus, as the Rebbe says in these short words. Even the Rebbe's letter requires explanation. So now he continues on in Torah Shalom. So the tikkun is not with a higher force, which means not something coming in to try to correct it. It has to be with the shleimus itself. Mitatifren keach. No midem gufa mitatifren keach. In other words, you can't have something repairing shleimus from outside or even from a higher place. It has to be from within itself, something very similar in it, and in a more powerful way. That's the key here. So think of it like Meneu be Abba Lishde be Narga sometimes. To chop down a tree, you need the wood of the tree and the axe. Here you need something from the shleimus itself, as the Rebbe explained in the letter. But he continues on. She'ena deima legiluyim. Because this is not deima legiluyim. Shleimus, when you talk about the core being of a person, in this case we're talking about sexuality, brise, is not a small thing. Which, by the way, incidentally, when Avram Avinu, the mitzvah of bris, why a bris? Why didn't he tell him to cut his nails? You can find a lot of things to be a symbol of covenant between God and the Jew and Avram Avinu and the Jewish people. Why the bris? Because the bris is not just a small part of the person; it's the core of the person. It carries the power of life. And when you make a krisas bris in the bris le'elam, like he says 13 times the word bris in Parsha Lech Lecha, the bris is because a covenant in your flesh, brisi b'psarchem, in your flesh, but not just in your flesh. There's other parts of the flesh. There's a flesh of your fingers, there's a flesh of your nose. There's all over the place flesh. You could have made a covenant in any part of your flesh. You could have made you could cut another part of the body. No, but this is the part of the sexual organ. This is the part that is the shleimus of the person. And Hashem wants a bris with our shleimus, not just with a part of us. So when you're talking about giluyim means expressions. It means faculties. We have many giluyim. So when it comes to giluyim, shleimus is not similar to giluyim. Giluyim dafar ben agili er elyon. When it comes to revelations, so you want, let's say, a person that wants to use their mind and they want to concentrate more on learning or studying something, so you need a higher power that pushes you to do so. When something is diminished or something is missing in Revelations, let's say you have some block, some resistance. How do you push it? Let's say, think of a pipe that's blocked. What do? You bring more energy, bring more power into it, you pump some energy into it, like you jolt it out of its place. Something is stuck. So when there's something's missing in Giluyim, you need something like motivation. Someone, let's say a student isn't studying. Reward them. Give them some incentive. So you need something else. Something else that will help reveal it. Because the revelation is not complete. That's Giluyim. Aber Shleimus definitely talking can Giluyim Elyon. When you talk about Shleimus, you're talking about the core being of a person. There it does not need to have a higher energy. Now what he means by this we can interpret many ways. One way you can say very simple. It's shleimus. What's higher than shleimus? What's going to break open? What's going to repair a wound in the core? There's nothing higher. But l'chayre, you can't say that's what he means here, because he says that you can gili elyon, like means that there could be a gili elyon, but it's not going to really repair the issue here. That's how I would interpret it more. Because you're talking about shleimus, giluyim does not help with shleimus. What are you going to do? Let's say a person had this violation in this core being of themselves. So what are you going to do? Bring a gili elyon, you're going to give them a gift of a lot of Torah. The problem is not in the giluyim, the problem is in their core. You need something that's going to affect the core, so you need something from within the core. So a gili elyon is not going to correct the problem here. It can distract them, it can keep them busy, but it's not going to heal the wound of the pagam abris and shleimus. What will? You need that there should be revealed the ir pnimi and atzmi, an inner and core energy, which means that will be revealed the shleimus. The core has to be revealed. So if there's a wound in the core, you have to now open up that core and repair it from within. You can't just bring something else and some zapping force that's going to repair it. You need to open up, like dissect it, and bring in something of shleimus that repairs shleimus. Now he continues. Because giluyim, there's concealments and coverings. L'moshel. For example, if ava or yira, love or awe, love or fear. When a person has love or fear, that's giluyim. Ava is a giluy, a keich hanefesh. It's not shleimus keich hanefesh. Loving your wife or loving somebody does not create a child. Love is an important component in it. But love itself is a giluy. It's not an atzmi. Shleimus is the bris is shleimus. So when there's love or awe, the chen al hasoga or hasoga, comprehension. These are all keiches hanefesh. Chachma, bina, das, chesed, gvura, teferes, netzach, chaydish, seid, malchus, giluyim. Giluyim from the nefesh. Where's etzem hanefesh? At least as it manifests, that's in the bris. That carries the etzem, because that carries life itself. It carries all the faculties, but more. So when there's a helam, so let's say a person is unable to awaken love inside them. Or they can't awaken yira inside them. Or they have a block in understanding, comprehending something. As es versteht sich nicht, es legt sich nicht. When a person versteht sich nicht, he doesn't understand something. Es legt sich nicht. It doesn't resonate. It doesn't, how do you say legt sich nicht? It doesn't sit with him well. An idea. Es ist nicht voran kein ave, kein yira. Or he's lacking love or awe. Is if aropnam de helomis vesterim, to take off these, to remove these impediments, darf man haben asiyu malmaila. What do you do when a person is not feeling love or not feeling awe or not understanding something? So you need a siyu, you need help from above. A gili elyon, a higher revelation that will help evoke or awaken this gili. He continues, the Rebbe Rashab qualifies what he just said. Darf man haben a gili siyu malmaila, a gili elyon, meinich nit, was malmaila git man im a gili I'm not talking about, I don't mean, the Rebbe Rashab says, that from above, they suddenly zap him, they give him some type of new, higher energy. No, in other words, he's not talking here about a susa delatata, whether it's coming from above, from God, or it's coming from us. It means when you have a block in these areas of Giluyim, you need something, so he means Gili Elyon means something in you, even, that needs to evoke something deeper or greater to get rid of the block. That he just wants to qualify. It doesn't mean Gili Elyon out from outside of you necessarily. It could mean just you. You need to do something to motivate yourself more. That he himself obtains or acquires a higher power. And with this, he eliminates the coverings. Think of it like this. You're digging for water in a well. You're digging for a well, and you hit a rock. And your shovel doesn't work. So you have to come back with a pick. And the pick gets rid of the stone, and now you can dig further. That's the idea. You have a blockage in Ava, Yir, or Asaga, in comprehension, so you need an additional force. So when he says Keich Gili Elyon, he doesn't mean necessarily some type of gift from heaven. It could be you yourself need to invoke a higher power to get rid of this Olam Hazeh. This is all Giluyim. And he continues. Why? Because Giluyim ken zachaleinit mesaken zayin. Giluyim cannot repair itself. The stone is there. What are you going to do? The shovel doesn't work. You have a block. It's like ein chovish matras atzmei. A person in fetters can't free themselves. If you have a block in love or awe or comprehension, that love that you have right now is not working. You can't say love. You need something outside of the love that will evoke it. Maybe you need to contemplate how that person saved your life. Like, for example, I heard some people on a train. There was a family traveling. There was a bunch of children making such a riot and ruckus that was disturbing everyone on the train. They were saying, get those kids quiet. And one of the father of the children went over closer to one of the people went over to the people on the train and said, this is a family that just lost their mother. They're on their way to the funeral. So obviously the whole train changed their attitude. Because they didn't know. This was just a mess. Now, they reconditioned. They said, really? They know that. So that's like, it evoked a different type of attitude and feeling. I'm just using an example how the mind. So here you have a koyach elyon. Because Giluyim, he says, very important word. Giluyim is Giluyim kenzach aleinit mesaken zayin. Giluyim, because of their, water that's blocked cannot free itself. The water that is blocked. You need something outside of the water or something additional to get it unblocked. Like we always say, from within a system, you can't change the system. That's Giluyim. Es kenzach aleinit helfen. Giluyim cannot help themselves. Weil Giluyim is doch eir. Because Giluyim is energy. Or eir, revelation. Mamele kashiyesh al ze alamas v'esteirim is doch nit verdan kein eir v'gili. So, eir is gili. Means revelation. So when there's a block that blocks the revelation. Let's say the sun is shining and now a cloud comes and blocks the sun. The sun can't break through the cloud. The whole point is because the cloud is just as powerful as the sun. Because Gilui, the opposite of Gili, is Helab. We're not talking about Etzem now, Shlemus. We're talking Giluyim. Giluyim, a Helam is a contradiction to a Gili. Now, this is not relevant to the issue of Er Decha Har B'Cheshech, where little light dispels darkness. We're talking about where there's two equal forces, and you have a powerful energy, light, and now there's a concealment. So when there's a Helam, you don't have light. So you can't say the light is going to free you. It would be like saying someone shut off the candle, the candle was extinguished, or the light was shut off. And you're going to say, bring back the light. The light was shut off. For some reason it was extinguished. So that alone cannot solve the problem. Is the tikkun of them dafen hobnan under keach. Therefore the repair of that needs to have another power, a higher power, that will now bring light to a place that was concealed. And let's say in this case, you need to have maybe a more powerful light to bring light in a place. If you, let's say you had a big room, very dark room, and it was so dense and so on, the oxygen was not there and the candle burned out. So you can say, turn it on again, it'll burn out again. You need to have maybe a more powerful energy that allows light to come into a place like that. What is that naveda? He says that's tshuva. Odvi tshuva, like tshuva. So you're missing, let's say you did a blemish in one of the giluyim of your body or your soul. Let's say whatever, a person by mistake or intentionally, God forbid, did something, he ate something inappropriate. Let's say he didn't give tzedakah when he should, didn't daven properly. Or whatever aveda you want. We have Ramach Evarim, Keneged Ramach Mitzvah, Shasa Gidim, Keneged Shasa Leisasa. 248 positive mitzvahs correspond to 248 organs. So it's like what I said before. 365 negative mitzvahs correspond to 365, nerves. Gidim. So, like we said earlier, you could have, God forbid, a wound in one arm, one organ, and it doesn't affect the whole person. What do? You need a Keyach Elyon Yesed, which is called Tshuva, and repair. A person used their hand instead of giving tzedakah. They did something negative. They hurt someone. So this is called Tshuva. How you repair it? Every Aveda, every mitzvah has its, if you, either by the lack of doing a mitzvah, you wounded one organ, or by doing, God forbid, or being over, doing something you're not supposed to do, you wounded one of the Gidim. So there's Tshuva that comes and repairs it. That's Tshuva. Tshuva, like here, is the light. The light itself can't repair it, so you need to have a higher power from outside that makes the tikkun. This is all Giluyim. Mashenk in Shlemus, in contrast, Shlemus. If there's a wound not to one organ, to the core being of who you are, your sexuality, the seed. You're talking about Pagam Habris, Shlemov. Sholach Yodav B'Shlemov. It affected the Shlemov, not just, it affected your Shlemus. The core you is doch Atzmi, was if das ist doch was if dem is doch keine Halamas V'Esteirim nit voran. So Atzmi, something at the core, where there is no Halamas V'Esteirim, concealments and coverings do not affect Atzmi. A Helam could be on a Gilui. Something's revealed, so a concealment can affect it. You can't conceal a core thing because a core thing is not bound by the rules of revealed and concealed. Nor from them inyan, Pagam Habris, he says now, now from them inyan, the Pagam Habris, the wound, the violation of the bris, was das doch echa atzmi, for nefesh habamis, rid the son in shlemus. So now he's talking about, so when it comes to shlemus and atzmi, where there's no hell in v'hester. Now you'll say, what do you mean? Pagam Habris is a hell in v'hester. No, but it's a hell in v'hester that's affecting the etzem. It's not a concealment of light. It's a blemish in the core. It's like you can't now bring medication to solve the problem. The core person, I'd say, like think of it like a cancer that's attacked the core human being, or a type of autoimmune disease. It's attacked the core. You can't just bring in something. It's not one organ. It's not isolated. It's not localized. It's something on a core level. No, from them inyan pagam habris v'dosi dochecha atzmi. So what's happening here? Atzmi has attacked an atzmi, because pagam habris is something that's attacked, a negative type of thing. This is also an atzmi. So nefesh habam is the animal soul when it tells you don't eat something proper, or don't make a bracha, or do something that you shouldn't be doing. It's affecting the giluyim of the nefesh habamis. This nefesh habamis is affecting the atzmi. It's a pagam in the bris. So this is in shlemus. Does it the son in shlemus? You've now attacked and violated something in the core. Now the tikkun of them is, so here giluyim are not going to help. Just to do tshuva is not enough. The tikkun has to be there is midem gufa. The repair has to be from the thing itself. It has to come from within itself. Was dafnit haben ken ander keach. Does not need to have another power from outside. Not ezon is galaven der atzmi. You need the atzmi now to re-emerge. The core force that was so powerful, which is the bris in Kedusha, has to reassert itself. Und durch dem wird der tikkun, and through this becomes the tikkun. So that's what he establishes in this first sif, in this sikha. And then he continues on. He talks about the difference between having a higher power and the power from within itself. And then he continues, as we'll learn soon, that this is Pnimis HaTeira. Pnimis HaTeira, the inner dimension of Teira, is the core essence of Teira. Like he explains in Ayim Beis, that the Teira itself is an outer dimension, inner dimension. So even though the outer dimension also has the inner dimension ultimately, because it's all God's Teira, but in Pnimis HaTeira it's revealed because it's expressing the divine shashuyim, the pleasure of Teira as it's rooted. That in turn turns into Chachma. So when a person immerses himself, like the Rebbe's letter, completely with all the seichel in it, and allows the Pnimis HaTeira to submerge him in it, then you are revisiting, you're regaining control over the etzem, and that etzem, that shlemus is mesaken shlemus. That itself repairs the shlemus of the violation in the shlemus, in the core. Das a greiser hefrish, zimedav hoben davka hechen keich, another keich. Goes now. This is a big difference whether you need to have a higher power or a different power. In other words, something outside to fix. Or the keich gufe tut sich durch dem was man is megal dem atzmi from dem keich. Or that the keich gufe tut sich durch, that the power itself happens through, that you reveal within the atzmi in the power itself. This is such, I'm telling you, I have to develop it, so this is an unbelievable new psychological approach. Tremendous. Not just about sexuality. Right. It's about two types of healing. One is a healing from like that, and one is a healing from...
And it's a simply the approach towards the youth today.
Yeah. This is tremendous stuff.
Talk about today.
No what?
Different shittas, the different approaches. How could you?
Like what time? What do you mean? Where do you speak?
Yeah. He said that one is Amlen Chassidus Shtek Men Hechef. You attack the core, so mainly you don't have all these issues. And others, they treat the symptoms. This is the
Shuzeu inyan shatikan al zeh de pnimis hatera. So now he's going to explain. That's why the tikkun of this type of begam, this blemish, is for pnimis hatera. Because you need atzmi. You can't. So what's the word? Because through the outer dimension of Teira, Ken Zayin as a learning Teira, you could learn Teira. Was based on learning is attacking the Shaykh Sodin Yanim. While he's learning, he's learning, so he's not Shaykh. Yemet learning to attack. He's actually learning then. Warum meint nicht as a learning Teira wie er in sichli wie andere Muskolas. He's still talking Chitzenis HaTeira. We're not talking about someone that learns Teira just like he's learning other seichel, other academic topics. V'chochmas hatchuna, v'chochmas harafua, like astronomy or medicine. Ukahai gavna. No. V'z yemel, diz doch be'esel lernt gufe, ken er sein shaykh zu den yanim. There, even while he's learning, he can be doing the worst possible things. It's an interesting take here. No, meant as be'esel lernt. Here we're talking about he's learning Chitzenis HaTeira, Nigla, and he's talking learning es lostem lernen. And that's Yitzhahara lostem ech lernen. He's cooperating. U'makol mokum is kantikan of them inyan itfara. And nevertheless, that does not give you a repair. Basically, it's holding the enemy at bay. So at that moment, you'll talk, because you're busy, your mind is elsewhere, so you're not focusing on inappropriate thoughts.
We're talking about preventive medicine.
Exactly. We're talking at the core. This is just, that's what I'm saying. Chitzenis HaTeira simply is doing is like keeping you distracted. Yeah. Anyway, but nobody said, it's like, it's made it. I just heard from somebody a Taich on Chochmas Chitzenis, which I really liked. Not Chochmas Chitzenis means outer Chochma, means Chochma that misses the point. That's what Chachma Chitzenis. So Chachma Pnimius is a Chachma that relates to the point, which is the God within it. The deeper Chachma Chitzenis means any Chachma that you learn, that you're missing the point. If you see the godliness in medicine, or you see the godliness in science, then it's understanding how God created the world. Anyway, interesting. So Chachma Chitzenis is a Chachma misses the point.
You could learn it if you understand the godliness of that.
Yeah, as it says, anyway. So this Chitzenis is not based on learning. I lost them learning. U'makomak is kantikan of them in Yonfran. Nor durach pnimis hatera, only through pnimis hatera. Vodos is a atzmi. Pnimis hatera is a core energy. Through this comes the tikkun. Vodos is doch von der einzigen Kinyonim was Chassidus darf mesaken sein. This is from the very few things that Chassidus has to repair. I guess what he means is that this is from the few things that you need Chassidus to repair. Or, not sure how this means. Okay. Unazmen is das nit mesaken. And if you don't repair it, that nit verstehen Chassidus. If you don't repair this, because it's an attack on the shlemus, on the atzmi. He says, Shilach Yodav b'shleimu. Oh, that's why Omar al-Posik. When they were singing Pad V'Shalom Nafshi, so the Rebbe Rashab started an explanation on this part of the pasuk. Very nice. Okay. But why? Because your atzmi has been defiled. Because the ikar tikkun of the minyan is dafke durach der atzmi. The primary tikkun, repair of this pagam, this blemish, is specific to the atzmi. They said nid durach tshuva, not through tshuva, because we said tshuva before is a power from outside. Tshuva helps the faults. Tshuva helps all for everything. Not as the tikkun is durach the atzmi alein, as the atzmi alein to durach. But when the repair comes from the atzmi, from the thing itself, from the core itself, the core itself, to durach means works it through. Is fran in dem ayisin has an advantage. Mervi de gile atzmi shal de akdomis hatshuva. More than and higher than the revelation of the core that comes through the preparation of tshuva. Vayisin hu b'shnei dvarim. And this advantage that comes from the core is in two things. V'do is mer umer pnimi. That there's more energy and it's more internalized. Med hergish pnimi. More internal feeling. So in other words, he's saying it's even higher than tshuva, learning chassidus. We're talking about sexuality and chassidus. That's what the Rebbe Rashab is talking about. He says that any type of blemish, any problem, can be fixed from outside, but when there's something this is very relevant to your work. When it comes from something that affects the core of somebody, like pagam habris, sexual problems, or anything that attacks the core, you cannot just bring a force from outside. You need the core itself to be transformed, and only chassidus can do that. So someone learns chitzenius hatera, so it can keep you distracted. But pnimius hatera heals the person at the core. Yeah. Wow.
Interessant, das ist von den einzigen Unionen, was Chassidus got me back.
Very interesting. Because you don't need chassidus, you don't need a powerful medicine to get rid of a headache. Chassidus is what you need for this thing. I think that the lashon means you could tie it means it doesn't. You could tie it two ways. Chassidus, amedaf mesakim zayin, because without that you can't understand chassidus. But also, Ensigin was chassidus. You need only chassidus can be mesakim. You can read it several ways, but But the lashon is that's from the Ensigin Yonim was.
It's interesting. On the one hand, chassidus has to be mesakim it, but if you're not mesakim it, then you can't chassidus.
Because that's fine because it's because you're telling here it's a war over your soul here. It's not a war over your outside. It's not like what garments you're going to wear and whether your external behavior. You're talking here about who's your core being. Who does your soul belong to? Your sexuality or to God, basically. That's where the battle is.
So you start learning chassidus without understanding. You're saying chassidus is mesakim it, and if you're not mesakim, you don't understand chassidus. When you start chassidus,
it's not catch-22. Why? Obviously, it's your choice.
No,
when a person learns chassidus properly, you're going to correct it.
How you learn chassidus properly if you're not,
that's the catch-22.
You tell me.
That means that unless you finish ein base and really understand it, you will not understand the simplest whatever.
If you read this literally, it means that chassidus is there at your disposal to fight this deep klipa.
Okay.
And if you don't fight it, if you're not going to correct it, you're not going to understand chassidus. So in other words, it's but you have the power to fight it. That's what he says here clearly. You have the power to bring chassidus in. The obvious answer is very simple. You begin learning to. It doesn't say you don't understand it all. You begin learning chassidus. It's like a medicine. You start feeding inside of you, and this begins to challenge. And as you go more, it gives you the power to be mesakin it. If you don't know chassidus, forget about this. This clip is not going to be conquered. Bottom line. We can learn nigla all day. It's not going to help you.
Is it like a sound bite for yeshivas to have an issue?
We also have an issue because we don't learn chassidus either. That's why, because we're not learning chassidus. There's not a question about this. I can tell you personally, testify to this. People who are seriously abused on this level, which is very damaging. We're not talking about pagam habris once in their lifetime. We're talking about someone who's been violated, raped, if you want to put it strongly, as a child by parents. I'm talking about very, very serious stuff that you can't even imagine. The sickest stuff, which completely screws up a person in the deepest possible way. Imagine a child, even little things that happen to a child affect. I'm still haunted by a guy in camp who told me that if I don't behave, because I don't know, I throw a stone at him or something, he's going to make me come with pajamas to dinner. He didn't mean it, but he said it to me. Children get terrified. I already went over to him and gave him a few patch to get it out of my system. But things like that, like some idiot adult scares a child. Children are very, you become terrified. You don't think. I told you the story with my wife when she was a little girl. First day she went to school. So the teacher's daughter beat her up. So you don't talk about these things because we don't understand children. Children don't talk. They're not like just tell us what happened. It doesn't work that way. They have different mentality. They're afraid. They have different fears. Very pure. So I can tell you people like that. What's the healing for people like this? I did a lot of research on this because I realized how prevalent it is. unfortunately prevalent here too. These are the things nobody talks about. These are the worst. We're not talking about cholavakum now, and whether you're wearing a short skirt. And that's why when you see these things, you realize, you see, like, for example, you see a Holocaust of 6 million people, you don't start talking about, like they say, rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Some people are talking, have asifis, have rearranging the deck chairs while the Titanic is going down, who's going to sit in Mizrach. You get the idea. It's a chnarishkeit. The house is burning down, and someone's saying, "Well, who's closing the window? And who's getting aliyah?" So when you see these things, you open your eyes. And trust me, I was once a naive little boy and did not understand these things. Things I saw and heard. First, I didn't believe it. Then I realized, and I started also appreciating the halachas and Torah. Taras mishpacha doesn't just mean mikveh. Taras mishpacha means kipshute, a pure home. A home where children grow up in a pure environment. And parents are absolutely responsible for that environment. That's their domain that God gave them to protect the garden. In every possible way. And this goes, by the Rebbe when he's, talked about television. He was bringing in, he said, the church. You're bringing in the klippah in your house. Because it doesn't mean that's the sin. You just create a house has to be a pure environment because children are pure. And the purer the environment, the healthier they'll be as adults, the more secure they'll be. I'm not even talking now frumkeit now. I'm talking about health. Tada maybe the kedusha. I'm not even talking about frumkeit. That's the big klippah here. That frumkeit is more important than health. People are not healthy and they're frum, which to me is like as sick as it gets. Because they think frumkeit is going to solve the problem. It's a gloss. It's a drug. In that case, an unhealthy person that's religious is far worse than an unhealthy person that's not religious. I could say that right outright because he has a crutch. That's changer that like a guy told me, the guy came to me, had shalom bayis problems. The wife was ready to divorce him. So I asked him, so what are you doing? He says, my mashpiyim told me I should learn more. So he goes he comes home, after dinner he goes back to 770 to what? To sit around with older guys and do what? I said, what are you doing? I understand. Your mashpiyim told you should leave your house? That's going to help shalom bayis? I said, you should be at home. What are you doing here at 11 o'clock at night in 770? But that's what they told him, that he'll learn more Teireh Chassidus. That's why that really happened. Yeah, I got my phone in my pocket. 1 second. So, he was running away from his problems. That's what it was. You understand? And running away from your problems is not going to solve your problems. But, mark that because I see this turn red. I don't want this to go out. Check if the green goes down. So I know I'm saying this because mamish negate what we're learning here. And so what was I saying? So I've seen this. The only way it really heals is mamish what it says here. That's why I'm very blown away with this. I never saw it quite so literal. No, we always knew these ideas, but he's like spelling it out. 2 types of like medication, so to speak. The people who heal from that, they don't heal. They never goes away. It's like the Holocaust. A person who went through a Holocaust is not going to forget what happened there. And he's going to lose nights, and he's going to have nightmares forever. He's going to the guilt and family lost. You never forget these things. But what gives a person strength is when you go even deeper. Like a lot of Holocaust survivors will tell you, what gave them is not they forget, that they felt their revenge, the passion to justify, in other words, my brothers are not here, my sister, I'm the only one that survived, I must continue the family. I want names for those people that passed away. I want to give them so what they're doing is they're going in the same place where the grief is, they're building something. They're not just glossing over and sitting down and distracting themselves. And the same thing is with all victims of sexual abuse or serious abuse that goes into the kishka thing, like he says here in the core, the shlemus, they heal always at the core. It's always in that level. They need to find something that's very soulful, very neshamadik. And the truth is that not everybody knows of Chassidus, but Chassidus does it because it goes there. It speaks about your core soul. So not just it speaks about it, you can relate to it. So I know people who started learning Chassidus, it mamish helped them tremendously in this regard. Because it was the only thing that can go in the same place and heal it. Like I said, important. Look, the Rebbe says in explaining this, the place that the Rebbe says interestingly, he says, "She's gala kol keich hasechel shalei b'limudei, v'chein is ofanem kol keich hasechel shalei." So frankly, the more you're immersed, because you're going. Yeah. No, remember I said the Gemara says, "En kishel l'das." That means that you have to be mizbein, you have to have some das. Sexuality is always consumes you. It's never just like, you can't do it kalachayad, basically. It's not like someone, you can be on the phone and then you press a button. It doesn't work that way. You have to be focused and concentrate. Because it's das. It says in Tanya, das is meloshn, it's kashrus. It's not chochem bina. That's why chet eitz das, it's das. Which means it's what do you say, yitokim machshavte, right? It's immersion in it. So immersion in Chassidus, that's the key is the immersion. It's not what you learn, it's the immersion. You have to kochzach in it to the point where you're really trying to understand Ruchnius. Like exactly what we talked about here many times. We talk about, Chassidus essentially in one line is trying to realign a Magushim Dika mind to think like a Ruchnius Dika person. And that's a big work. For a person who's suffering on this level, that's a lifesaver. For other people, it's obviously a great way to go to climb. But someone because the person, he can't, when you're a Magushim Dika person, you can get away with it. You can survive. But if you've been hurt and violated, you can't continue living a Magushim Dika life. You have to become a Ruchnius Dika person. It's the only solution. I mean, that's the bottom line. They have no choice. You talk to anyone that was suffering that level, will tell you, I have no choice. I must find my soul. Because my body has been damaged. So the only thing is soul. The only real solution is soul. And Chassidus is soul.
He's talking about something else.
If you go to the... But what? Let me ask you something. You ever see a human being that can think about nothing?
No, I didn't say that.
No, when the Rebbe says that, yes, it says the second half. There's no such thing as Hezcha Das without filling the Das with something.
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about it. We're talking about
anyway, that's the bottom line. So you'll always see the people that are what suffered most, it's the soul that saves them. It always comes. Look, the first step in the 12-step program, which is, but not even sexual abuse, you're talking there about alcohol and drugs and so on. You know the first 12 steps of the 12-step program is basically the first of the 10 commandments. It says like this, that I surrender my life to a higher power because I realize I have no control over my life. Only one that can say that is someone who's hit rock bottom. And it's the first thing that all healing begins from that. If you don't accept that, you continue to be when a person can't say that or feel that, they don't have that bittul, then they continue the problem because they think they can survive. I don't need anything else. I have it all worked out. The worst thing of all addicts is a functional addict. You ever hear the expression? A functional addict is a person who's completely addicted but can go to work and play the game as if everything is fine. Those are the worst of all addicts. Because they convince themselves everything is alright. Nothing is alright. Behind the scenes it's horrible. They're stealing money, they're obsessed, they go do things that no one will ever imagine. But they're functional. They can come to the job. They know how to manage it. Because they don't come to that bittul. Then the people who come and realize. They come to realize that I cannot, my body and all my bodily desires destroy me. The only thing that works is my soul. Basically, that's the statement. I mean, I'm just giving you equivalent to... Now, Primish Atera, nobody's ever made a promise that if you learn this, it will wash out your soul. Chassidus does that.
The body has been damaged, not your soul. I would say that the soul has been damaged.
The soul is never really damaged. It's the awareness of the soul that's damaged. The soul is never damaged.
The trauma and all that, where is that? That's in the soul, isn't it?
Well, the way it works is like this. The deepest levels of the soul for sure are not damaged. What happens is...
Even through Averis?
Even through Averis, for sure not. The Chida is never. Think of it like this. The heart could be healthy, but the arteries that bring the blood to the heart can become clogged. Same thing is the same thing. The soul, its core level, what happens is when there's damage done, the soul goes back into its shell. The damage is being done. I don't mean, when I say body, I don't just mean body like the outer layer of the skin. I mean also the part of your awareness, your consciousness. But now your consciousness is all on it's an outer level. You have no access to your inner soul. You don't even know you have it. You don't even have the confidence in it. So it's basically, think of it, it's like the appliance is damaged and the energy that's right there in that appliance. It's not the soul in its core place. What healing, what you do is you try to dig, is you want to go into the deeper parts of the soul that were not damaged. I'll just give you an example, okay, so you'll understand. This you probably never heard before, but there's a thing called, I call it like psychological hypothermia. You know what hypothermia is?
Yeah.
When a child,
When you're in the cold.
like it happens often with children,
Cold water.
they fall into under ice. So the body goes into almost a death state. Now, they used to think it was death. There were people actually, how they discover this thing? Because no vital organs are functioning. The heart is not beating. The brain is not functioning. You think the person is dead. All the signs seem like they're dead. And then they discovered there was a person they were about to bury around like 80 years ago. And they realized, someone said, I just saw a movement. They said, they came to realize that when the body is in danger, what it does is it sends all its energy to the main resources. That's why we go into shock. That's why body goes into, it's actually a preservation method, survival method. The body will go to the heart and to the brain to keep it alive. And everything else can go. Because all it cares about is keeping the person alive. When the shock is so deep, like this type of case, it happens to children more because their temperature, they don't have the body, they don't have a big body. So what happens is the body will go into complete shutdown mode, but there is something there. So now they know it.
I can sleep.
Yeah, in order to be able to revive. So it basically goes to protect itself. It's like if you were attacked, the first thing you'll do is cover the most important part of yourself, God forbid, because the other parts are not as vital to life. So psychologically, there's a concept that's called an out-of-body experience. You ever hear about this? Psychologically, when a person is very seriously hurt, abused, I don't want to use examples, but especially if it's from a parent or from a loved one or close one, the child cannot tolerate the fact that someone, like a parent, is hurting the child. So the child will, they call disconnect. It's like not happening to me. And literally two people, like mamish, the child can later talk about, like it happened to someone else, and you never know what's happened to this child. So disconnect. Because God, in His mysterious ways, is not, because the child cannot live with the fact that someone is doing that. So the child will completely block out the memory, as if it happened to someone else. It's almost like, you did it to my body, not to me, type of thing. This is proven phenomenon. This is not Baba Mises. And what happens is, if it's a one-time thing, it's a one-time thing. But if it's ongoing, at a point the child actually has two personalities. The personality that's being hurt, and there's another personality that goes undercover, and sometimes never will come out again. In good therapy, when they really work hard at this, they want to reconnect the two. Like they say, you're no longer in danger. So now you can come back out. But the child already has gotten used to living a different life. Instead, so they're almost like two different people. And this is a phenomenon, and you see it, and you can see people like that have very difficult relationships, because the people that are close to them see two people here. Here is this person, and there's this person. What's going on here? And you think there's something mentally disturbed with them. It's not necessarily the case. It was this, and they have to be taught you're no longer in danger. But the body has already become. It's like almost like if I punch you, God forbid, enough times. Every time I just do this, your body's going to right away tighten up just by a knee-jerk reaction, because it's learned that if someone stretches out their hand, they're probably going to punch you. I've had situations where a couple, because I know the symptoms today, will tell you that the husband will say, I just want to reach out to my wife, and she like that. It's the first sign. Why? Why would she do that? Because she's had that experience, and then she may not even remember it. It's like it becomes embedded. So what you want to do, why am I saying this? Because what's happening here is like, in a way, it's a blessing. Because God didn't let the pure part of the child really be hurt. It lets the soul, so to speak, remove itself from the situation. But then the body carries all these memories, and the question is, how do you reconnect the two? So in a way, the soul was almost like, that's what I'm saying, hypothermia. It's like, everything goes away in order to. Now the problem is if a person doesn't come back, so they live a life that's very, very disconnected, very, very disjointed, and I can go on and on. There's a lot to say about it, but to go back to this topic here, what I've seen myself is when you teach someone Chassidus, and it's far deeper than just learning Haskalah. There's something that speaks to their soul. It starts speaking to their soul. Once it starts speaking there, it gives them the power to reconnect to that place. Because that's where the damage was. And only something that can speak to that place can do it. Now, there are excellent therapists who know how to go there, because most of them are themselves, they call survivors. So they know how to speak about it because they were there. you know. Yeah, it's a tremendous, it's as painful as it gets. There's nothing worse than this. It's a personal Holocaust. But the lessons of the soul that are learned through this type of pain, you have nowhere. That's why I know, I can tell you people who talk about knowing Chassidus in their gut. I can show you people, completely secular people. Their knowledge of Chassidus is far greater than we'll ever have, all of us. Because we learn it, and they're living it. And I don't just mean Aveda, it's far even deeper than Aveda. We're not talking about just sitting and davening. Their kishkis are being changed by it, because it's the only thing that they have. It's the place that nourishes them. That's what it comes down to.
This is all
Sexual abuse is basically takes away the oxygen of a person's core soul. Chassidus replaces that oxygen. Nothing else can do that, to put it in blunt terms.
Yeah, but we are talking basically about Shikha Zerul of Torah. There's beide wegen, du hast gebracht als ein Dogma.
No, but nein. But I sag Begam HaBris, one second. First of all, I sag Begam HaBris, and danach sag Shilach Yodev B'Shleimov. It could be a lot of things here. Hold on. The concept is the same, because it's talking about, it's an attack on the Shleimus Adam. And also, I'm making it relevant today. You know, listen, I'm talking about this is... No, it's violating. Look. I agree. He's talking obviously, but the theory is absolutely the same. Look, sexuality is sexuality, no matter how you twist it, whether it's shazal or the andere Sachen. It's a person's obsessions with sexuality. Yeah. However you twist it and turn it. Yeah. And if a person is having an affair or is going to prostitutes, it's a different form of obsession. But it's the same. You're going into the core. Obviously, I'm talking about it much more in a healing way. For Bochrim or for people who deal with the issue of Begam HaBris, there's plenty to say about it as well. But I think for me, it goes a lot further when you're talking the healing. That's all. Yeah, absolutely. What I said now is definitely beyond but it's completely based on this.
I just want to continue.
I will continue. Okay. So the last two things he said, you came an interesting day. We usually don't do this. We were doing Teira Shalom, not Ayin Beis from Yutas Kislev, But it's heavy duty stuff.
Obviously now I can share the knowledge.
For sure. So he's saying, this tikkun that comes through this is tshuva helft afalz. But the tikkun was kum from the atzmi alein to durach, he says, is more and in two things. It's a mer eir or mer pnimi. It's more eir, more power, and more internalized. Good. B'chazorah, now he's adding that by chazorah, this is what the Rebbe Rashab added. When they chazed this sicha,
and what's Teres Nigla? That's me. What is it?
Teres Nigla, like he said, it's Chitzenius HaTeira. You're learning about a kurkevin. You know what a kurkevin is? A pupik. Or you're learning about Machlif Parah B'Chameir. You're learning about Elam Hazeh, but you're learning it what the Teira says to do. So, like he says, while you're learning, those in Yonim, Yetzer Hara won't bother you. Because you're learning. But it does not, tikkun for sure it's not, because it doesn't go there. It doesn't talk about the soul. It doesn't talk about these matters. Yeah, very often. He would, They would chazer in front of him. And he would listen. And then he would comment. It's quite a few times you'll see it. B'chazara Omar al Zeh ha'inyan hezber. By Chazara, the Rebbe Rashab said on this explanation, Tshuva Tata tzarich liyas mitchila. He's saying Tshuva Tata, the lower Tshuva, which needs to be in the beginning. He may be answering what you're saying. You need Tshuva Tata to begin learning. You need to have some type of regret, so to speak. Tshuva Tata usually means cleaning out the dirt type of Tshuva. Not Tshuva. Tshuva is more of a Gilei Lakus. Charata Ovar. Like before you bring in the new furniture, you got to get rid of the dust. The below that any keli eratera, because without that he's not a keli eratera. But need dust is the tikkun from them. That's the word. So you need a tshuva, because if not, you're not going to be coming to the game. You're not going to show up. So you need to know if a person is immersed in their Vedas, they're not going to learn Chassidus, b'chlal. So, in a real way. So you need to have, the first thing is you need to be a keli. But that doesn't make the tikkun. But need dust is the tikkun from them. This does not repair the problem. The tikkun is durich ha'er atzmi. The repair is through a core energy, durich teira, through teira. Ve'ikra de primis haTeira. So he doesn't say Teira not at all, because Teira at the end of the day is still. But specifically, and this is the Yisra and Maila. That's what he's adding now. Because before he said that Tshuva doesn't quite do it. Tshuva is like a force from outside. So he's explaining now. Because the Tikkun has to come, and that's the advantage. As the Tikkun is von Inyanim von Tshuva, k'moi tanesim v'segufim, this has an advantage. Because when the Tikkun, the prepare comes through outside, through Tshuva, like fasting, and self-affliction was the word, self-flagellation, tzigufim, punishing yourself, ukahai gavna, shayisin hu was is in a hechere madrege, und dois faran mer gilier. So the tikkun Yisra Malavi is the tikkun is from Inyanim from Shuv. It has an advantage. Here the tikkun is coming from a higher level. There's more gilier. It's not just you're fasting and breaking it down. Omer primi, and more internal.
And here he doesn't differentiate between Shuvah Tato and Shuvah Eloah?
He just doesn't say Shuvah Eloah. It looks like to me the learning Chassidus is Shuvah Eloah. Yeah. As the tikkun is Aidei Inyoni Shuvah, he's going to explain. Because when the tikkun is through Shuvah, is not them in the Yaakov Holchel Darke. That's a nice expression here. Not them in the gates back to your regular path. Kenner echt zu kommen zu Madreges. So yes, when it's the tikkun through Inyoni Tshuva, and afterwards when he goes back to his ways, he can still come to some level, meaning some level of control. Aber das ist nidas. But it's not real transformation. Es kann sein am Metzias, as a Zevim and Zok mit einem Pelz in Gan Eden. It could be a Metzias, that it could be a Pelz in Gan Eden. Kann sein, sich weggeben zu Teire, kann sein der Tikkun, Goshelei de Tshuva Tato Gamken. So he's saying like this. It
has to be something through Torah, because before Chassidus was this Gala, what do they do? It has to be also, you could be able to access to Torah also, but okay.
He said through Torah, before Primis HaTorah.
Yeah, no, but before Primis HaTorah.
Now he's saying something new now. A Pelz in Gan Eden means, I guess, you could have two opposites at once. You could be in Gan Eden, but without Pelz. In other words, or maybe it means a Pelz can sein as a Vegem to Torah, can sein the Tikkun. In other words, a person could be dedicated to Torah, and he can. I'm not sure. That's what I'm thinking. One second. Can sein the Tikkun Goshelei de Tshuva Tato Gamkin. The truth is, you could have a Tikkun Habgam even without Tshuva Tato. A person throws himself into Torah. But Tzadik and Pelz, you think wie man sagt mit dem Pelz in Gan Eden.
I think he's going to spell it out.
No, he doesn't spell it out. No, Yemel ved the Ruchnius sein grob. But then the Ruchnius will also be grob. In other words, he's saying like this. He's qualifying by Chazari. He qualified this whole thing. First, he said that the Tshuva Tato you need to have because you need to be a Keli, but that doesn't make the Tikkun. At the end of the day, the Tshuva does not make the Tikkun because it doesn't go from number one into the core, into the Pnimi, and it doesn't really have that Gilead. That's what he says. It's not a revelation. It's not that internalized. It's more of a force from outside. A cheap way out, or it's like self-control, or it's pushing it off, or like I said, distraction. It's not transformation. So you could also come, he says, to a level. Azevim and Zok mit Pelz in Gan Eden. Kann sein, sich weggeben zu Teire. Give me a second. Pelz in Gan Eden. Grobe Ruchnis. That's what it means. He's in Gan Eden, he's learning, but he's, weißt doch, he's with a grobe Pelz, he's with a big fur coat. Yeah. So you can sein, that Tikkun God, and he says noch mehr. Goshelei de Tshuva Tato Gamkin, even without Tshuva. He's just, like you could have a Fagrepte Misnagid who's learning Torah and forcing himself. Now, Yemel ved the Ruchnis sein grob. But nevertheless, there could be some repair through Torah. Shalei de Hagdomas Tshuva. Without Tshuva. Now, Bechlal is Tshuva Tato Dav Zayin. But in general, he's bringing several levels here on this thing. There's Tshuva Tato needs to be in general. But Nidur Das is that Ikra Tikkun. Okay, what he said is like this. You could have it through Torah without really Tshuva Tato. You have but generally you have to have tshuva. But then it will never be. But not that makes the tikkun. To repair on that level, abnidur dem is the ikar tikkun. The ikar tikkun are the er atzmi. The main tikkun is through er atzmi, a core energy. That's what he added here now. Okay, it's basically several different elements to this. In other words, he's saying like this. Of course you can control it. Of course you can even keep it today. But it's not going to be a real transformation within. That's what he said. That can only come by going into the neshama and really having that er atzmi there. Oid Omar, the Rebbe Rashab said another thing by Chazorah. As es ist schwer zu reden wegen dem Tikkun, was sei der Teire. It's difficult to speak about the Tikkun that comes through Teire allein. Shall der Agdom is Shuvah Datah. Weil it does darf sein mit a emes. Because that type of Teire has to come with a truth. When ados is nicht emes, it's a sheker. And if it's not true, it's a false. She'ef shaliz b'zeh harbi inyanim from chitzenius. There could be a lot of external things. Now, Bechlal is the inyan hazeh. But in general, this is how the Inyan is. Ad kanu has hezber b'chazara. This is until here's what he explained by Chazara. What did he add here? Actually, I just realized something. Because it says yeah, I think he's qualifying a few things here. First of all, the need for tshuva. That doesn't do the thing at tikkun itself, even if you need it. Another thing, that teira, even without pnimis teira. That's what it looks like here. Yeah, like he said before. Remember before he also said, Melen Teire, B'shas Maisa. It's not like medicine. B'shas Maisa, you could hold it at bay. Oh, but he says, but Atikum wird von dem nicht sein. He says before. U'makom is Kentikum of them in Yanit Faran, column 1, middle of the page.
It seems like he's saying more than Hezbollah. Yeah.
So in the Hezbollah he's saying more. You could be like a Peltz in Gan Eden. And he's saying that at the end of the day, it's hard to say how it is without. He's saying qualifying. You can have it through Teda, but without Shuvah. But then it has to be very pure Teda. So someone to have it through Teda without Shuvah.
How about Shuvah and then Teda?
I'm not sure. I would lean towards. I think most likely I would think he means Primis HaTeda. Because it means that through learning Chassidus without Shuvah, you could have this atzmi. That's what it looks like he's saying. Because before, but generally you still need to have some tshuva. That's what he's saying. I think there's also within here, I think there's a few things. They're a little overlapping. Yeah. There's also teira without primis teira, and there's tshuva without.
Because after he says teira, he says vikar tikna teira atzmi. That's
yeah. Because he says no b'chlal tshuva tator. Yeah. It looks like there's three possibilities here. There's a possibility through teira and there's no tshuva. There's a possibility of tshuva without teira, and then there's primis teira is the ultimate.
How about the fourth, tshuva and then nigla?
That's what he's speaking about as well. Yeah, that also is not going to do the tikkun completely. It's bekitzer, it could be elaborated upon, but I think you have the basic principles here. Got it? I can't tell you whether he's speaking mamish about primis teira or not. It sounds more like primis but you could also be saying tikkun al-yedei teira. I mean primis teira. Let's do one more sif, and I think that ends the inyan. Okay, here we go. The Chassidim velchazayin given. Listen to this one. This is pretty wild, I think. The Chassidim velchazayin given God potter fun the inyanim. Those that were completely free of these problems. Yeah. Zeich and Zeich can use in it. I see no advantage in that. Ze haben kein chush in Chassidus nicht. Because this is what he said before. Remember he said Chassidus darf metaken sein? It means Chassidus, you have to be a sexual human being to have Chassidus. Ze zijn kein chush in Chassidus. Ze haben kein chush in Chassidus nicht. They have no chush in Chassidus. He means basically Kalte Bruim was letting a non-nigla probably. The Chassidim they call Chassidim. I don't know whether. Wegen Atzmi redt man nicht. We're not talking about Atzmi. He's not talking about Chassidim that are Atzmi. Aber a Chosid is dafke durch dem, was man is mesaken dem Minyan, durch dem kann man verstehen Chassidus. Very similar to what he said here before. In other words, we're not talking about an Atzmi that's not shaykh to Inyanim. Because then he has Chassidus. Yeah. Yeah, mitzad Atzmi. But that a person that are not shaykh, more mitzad... a guy that doesn't know how to be passionate. That's killer what he says. It's pretty risque here. Or the true cult. Because now it's very similar. Remember he said before, was das ist doch von der Inyanim, was Chassidus darf mesaken sein? I think that's what he meant here also. It's not only that, das von der Chassidus darf mesaken sein, you need to have this. Because then you can understand Chassidus, and Chassidus is mesaken. That's what he says now. Look, he says, they're going to... Aber a Chassidus darf durch dem, was man is mesaken dem Minyan. Durch dem kann man verstehen Chassidus. Well, interesting. What means durch dem kann man verstehen? Durch dem because you had a taiva and you didn't follow it?
Or you follow it and then you can
No, you followed it and misakin, the tikkun part. No, God will forbid, not saying echte v'oshuv, for sure not.
No,
right.
You tapped into your passion for the holy purpose.
You struggled.
Durch dem kann man verstehen Chassidus. In other words, to understand Chassidus, appreciate it. Yeah, because then you're not dealing with chitzenis dikazachen. Like I said, not to eat cholavakum or to whatever. To brush your beard doesn't require this knowledge of chassidus. Let's put it this way. Kol pol Hashem lemaneo. Oh wow, that means alles was the Eibishter macht is to lib them. So it means even this taiva was made kol pol Hashem lemaneo.
Yeah.
That everything God did was in order for you to be a better person. So the fact that there's such a taiva, there's such a thing, is lemaneu. That's what he means here. That it's in order, the whole thing was in order to come verstehen Chassidus besser. That, by the way, it's not such a crazy word, because you come down Lamata and Elam Hazard, all the Nishanas of Elam Hazard B'chlal is in order to you to understand Ruchnis better. Which you wouldn't really, if you weren't pressured.
This is a core thing. So
we're talking here obviously certain pagam, but the bottom line is, if you were not pressured in this world, you wouldn't really reach the depths of Ruchnius. Lamaila, they don't need any of this. But think about a neshama Lamaila. Doesn't have any taivas. Doesn't have any pagam habris. Doesn't have a potential. So what's their level of understanding Chassidus? They don't go there. They don't go to that core. I mean, I'm not talking about an atzmi. We're talking about a neshama atzmi. Okay. That inyan from this takla, the yikara de malka, to look at the beauty, the yekir, of the king, kommt dafke durch dem tikkun von den inyanim. It comes specifically to the repair of this stuff. Like he said before, to appreciate the beauty of the God, you have to appreciate. For divas haben mesaken gewend den inyanim here. Because those that were mesaken the inyanim were some takim farochten das. By the way, mesaken doesn't mean that it had to be a pagam. Mesaken could be also that you didn't that you didn't follow the taiva. Yeah. So those that were mesaken through a gili atzmi, in other words, they learned chassidus to go deeper to repair this. They're in a much they come to a far deeper appreciation of God.
It's only if they quit because of chassidus.
Yeah.
Not if they quit on their own.
Right.
On their own, they
no way.
Really quit. That's what he said. You can blind matzadik in pelt.
So there's no yisin for divas ham nicht gedacht. Mesaken is mesaken means the whole the challenge. Wow. But das ist der von der einzigen Nummer, was Chassidus darf mesaken sein.
You guys didn't want to learn this here, huh?
Sholem umenu. So now we go Sholem umenu. They asked the Rebbe Rashab. You put this on. They asked the Rebbe Rashab. Im heim mu'ulim yeser. What does he mean? That's asachecher. Im heim mu'ulim yeser. Me'elu shetikra idei tshuva. Gam me'elu shehoye pturim legamri me'elin yonim. V'heshiv me'elu shehoye pturim legamri. That's, in other words, like we said in the beginning, those are completely not shaykh, that he doesn't think there are any advantage to them. So this, yeah. But those, no, he's not saying that it's higher. Before he said actually it was higher than those that do tshuva also.
he says that Eir Atzmi is lavdaf gehecha from those that are shatik no liyatshuva. That's what he's saying.
No, he didn't say that.
That's what it's clear here now.
Those that are Eir Atzmi.
But interesting, it says here, Oy gam me'elu. So if his answer was gam, gam me'elu. Understand?
Yeah.
It looks like both, actually.
No, he didn't say gam me'elu.
But the question was gam me'elu. Huh?
After gam is given the shayla.
It seems like that. Okay, you can learn both ways.
Why does it mean?
For sure higher than those that did tshuva.
Those who fix it with this tikkun of chassidus, are they higher than people who just did it through tshuva, or also people who didn't have a base, who don't have the challenge?
And what's the answer?
They said they're higher.
And what about the ones that higher than both? Is how you're learning. So, but Lavdafka, you could say he answered only from those. I'm not sure. I think it looks like from both. That's what it looks like. Because earlier he did say from both. Remember, he said Atzmi is higher than tshuva, because tshuva is an outside force. It could be he means here tshuva also those that were nichshel and they did tshuva
Without the Atzmi.
Yeah, let's see what he says here. For Omar Eida Pam, and then he said again, Kol Pol Hashem L'Maneyu. It's a very powerful word. That means every time you have a challenge, remember God made everything for you to have this challenge, not to overcome the challenge. That inyan lig b'mir alamol behelam. This inyan is always by me concealed. When it's the zogir das was in them is frana seid komus. And now I say it. Now I articulate it. And there is a seid komus, a hidden secret. Was is negayet zum Verstand von der Minyan. Which is important, which is negated, it's important to understand is v'lei uchel, and I cannot reveal it.
So the fact that I'm revealing it now has to do with some kind of a seid that the Rebbe Hashem does not want.
It looks like it's following the words called Paul Hashem Lamene. He's saying that inyan lig b'helam. This whole subject that he's talking about. I think the call Paul Hashem Lamene is basically saying, he's like telling the Bochrim, that when you have this challenge, remember, everything God is doing is now for you this challenge and for you to overcome it and go to Chassidus. I'm not sure. It looks like the flow is that inyan lig b'mir almo behelam verche inyan. The ganze inyan was at Geret jetzt, the call Paul Hashem, the mystery of how God works. Then it's not clear here. What is the? Okay, let's read what he says. That's it. Let's see the end here. Ki yadu liyedechein. In other words, chen is chachmas nistara. B'teich dvar of shal harayat shlita ala inyan. In the middle of the words, the rayat looks like the Frierdiker Rebbe asked on this inyan. Sha'omer sha'tikun alidei shleimus. He asked on this thing that he said the tikun is through shleimus. As the inyan from shleimus vesen got chsidim nidam alav beis davon. The Rebbe Rashab is saying amadav shleimus and chsidus. Chsidim they don't begin to understand alav beis. So what's the whole sicha? Yeah. So listen what he says v'heshiv. The mais is nitazeh. It's not correct. When Aben vesen darf man wissen. In other words, what you're telling me they don't know the olive base, maybe B'Poel they don't know, but they're capable of knowing it. You understand? So in other words, there's no such thing as this. And later he said, when he explained this, in generally doesn't mean if a grob veg, all these things. He's not talking about P'gam HaBris b'mezit. V'chein gam b'shegig. Yesh chilukim. U'mementin dem edelsten efen. So in other words, even the most in the most edel way. Yeah. This is a pretty. Isn't this a pretty mind-blowing sikha?
Simon, are we closing because you're going to get a lot of emails now after this year?
Get at the derech tznius. One second. Let me just see. What does he say in the next sifra? Is in the Geya? Okay, we'll stop here. So we did this Teira Shalom Yutes Kislev, pages 170. Well, the whole thing was started at 166, Teira Shalom through 174, and now we did the last few pages. We did page 170 through 174. Yeah, you can stop it.